Imagine burning your passport because it no longer matters. For centuries, the ultimate status symbol for the 0.001% was land, a private island, a sprawling estate, a hidden bunker in New Zealand. But as we move deeper into 2026, the game has changed entirely. Land is no longer enough, because land, no matter how remote, is still subject to the laws of a nation. It is subject to taxes, to shifting political tides, and to regulations that the ultra-wealthy can no longer fully control. Today, the global elite are moving beyond the concept of mere ownership. They are building their own sovereignty. We are witnessing the rise of private cities, territories with their own legal codes, their own private courts, and their own autonomous police forces. They aren't just escaping the system we all live in. They are architecting a new one where they are the ultimate authority. For years, a mysterious entity called Flannery Associates began a quiet but massive land grab in Northern California. They spent over $800 million buying up 60,000 acres of farmland in Solano County. For a long time, no one knew who they were. Not the local farmers, not the state government, not even the neighboring Air Force base, which grew increasingly concerned about a foreign power buying up the perimeter. The truth, once revealed, was even more startling. It wasn't a foreign power, it was a coalition of the most powerful titans in Silicon Valley. Marc Andreessen, Reid Hoffman, and Laurene Powell Jobs. Their vision? A project called California Forever. They want to build a utopian city from scratch in the middle of nowhere. But look closer at the fine print. This isn't just a bold experiment in urban planning. It is about total vertical integration. When you own the ground, the energy grid, the water supply, and the digital infrastructure, you don't need to lobby the government for favorable laws. You simply write the laws yourself. This is the blueprint for a corporate state where the resident isn't a citizen, but a customer. Meanwhile, on a small tropical island off the coast of Honduras, another experiment is pushing the boundaries of what a country even means. A project called Próspera. It is built on a ZD, a zone for employment and economic development. Within the boundaries of Próspera, the traditional laws of Honduras barely apply. This is a startup city in every sense of the word. Próspera operates on its own civil code. It has integrated Bitcoin as a legal tender for all transactions. Most importantly, it has its own private judicial system. If there is a dispute, it isn't settled in a public court, but by private judges under a framework that favors rapid innovation and minimal regulation. This is the physical manifestation of the vision shared by Peter Thiel and the Seasteading Institute. For decades, they have dreamed of floating cities in international waters, places where there are no kings, no taxes, and no social safety nets to pay for. They call it the sovereign individual theory, a world where the elite can move their wealth and their bodies to whichever jurisdiction offers them the best deal. But if you want to see the true scale of this ambition, you have to look to the Saudi desert. This is where the Neom project is unfolding, a $500 billion bet on the future of human habitation. At its heart is The Line, a 170-kilometer mirrored skyscraper designed to house 9 million people. But Neom is not just a massive construction project. It is legally designated as a sovereign zone. It will operate under its own legal system, entirely separate from the rest of the kingdom. Why are the world's most expensive tech consultants and AI architects flocking to a desert construction site? Because Neom is a blank slate. It is a place where data can be harvested without the friction of Western privacy laws. It is a cognitive city where every movement, every heartbeat, and every transaction is monitored by a central AI. For the 0.001%, this represents the ultimate luxury, a perfect, climate-controlled, highly secured bubble, completely insulated from the geopolitical chaos and environmental collapse of the outside world. In Neom, surveillance isn't a bug, it's the primary feature that guarantees safety for the elite. This new age of private cities raises profound ethical questions. Who safeguards the rights of residents when the government is a corporation? These cities promise utopia, but what happens if you fall out of favor with those in power? Consider the implications of a justice system without accountability, where social services are privileges, not rights. As these cities grow, so does the risk of creating a new class divide, one where access to fundamental rights is determined by wealth. Is this the price of progress or a dangerous step backward? This global trend is what experts are calling the Great Exit Strategy. The elite are looking at the state of modern nations, the staggering debt, the social unrest, and the crumbling infrastructure, and they have decided not to fix it, but to opt out. They are shifting their loyalty from nations to networks. In these private jurisdictions, the social contract is replaced by a service-level agreement. If you can afford the entry fee, you get 5-star security and 0 taxes. If you can't, you are left behind in the old world. The map of the world is being redrawn before our eyes. It isn't being changed by military conquest, but by private contracts and high-speed capital. If these projects succeed, the future won't be divided by geographic borders, but by access levels. Citizenship will become a tiered subscription model. We are tracking these files at Vantage because the world they are building is already here, hidden behind non-disclosure agreements and offshore holding companies. The question we have to ask ourselves is, what happens to the concept of human rights when justice becomes a private service? What happens to the 99% when the engines of wealth creation simply move to a different private dimension? If you want to use the same analytical systems we use to track these assets and stay ahead of the shifting global power structures, the link to our toolkit is in the description below. Understanding the move before it happens is the only way to remain a sovereign individual in an age of corporate states. So, would you move to a city owned by a billionaire for the promise of 0% tax and total security? Or are we witnessing the dawn of a new digital feudalism? Let's have a serious discussion in the comments. If you found this deep dive valuable and want to stay ahead of the future, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. This is Vantage Files. Case closed.